Hello, I am the storyteller, and welcome to my channel. I plan to make my own original short stories and narrate them. I'll also be planning to eventually self-publish different short stories on other self-publishing platforms. I hope you'll enjoy my story. The Bodach. Gathered around a campfire deep in the woods, I stared at the pale faces of my children, who stared at me intently, with wide eyes to hear me tell a story. The sun was down as darkness engulfed the entire forest save our campfire, keeping the night at bay, casting long, twisting shadows in all directions. The moon was waning into a bright crescent, peeking from behind the black curtain of the night sky. The fire hissed and crackled as we cooked our hot dogs over the flame at the end of our skews, as we all reclined in our fold-up chairs. The breeze, so slight, bearing whispers of old stories and dark secrets. The mood is all set. It is about the time of year, when the veil between worlds is at its thinnest, I said. It is the time of Samhain, now known here in the U.S. as Halloween. There is a tale that has been passed down in our family for generations, about the creature called the Bodach, or also known as the boogeyman. There are different types, from mischievous little imps to murderous creatures that crave the flesh and blood of people. However, in this case, I am going to relate to you of the latter. My great-grandfather, Liam from Ireland, had claimed to encounter such a creature on Halloween. He was about to fall asleep in his little cottage until he heard a piercing shriek in his village. He sprang up from his bed in alarm, frantically dressing, then grabbed a shotgun. He opened the door, being blasted by the cold air while the rain stung his face in infernal fury. His eyes widened to see a commotion happening in the cottage that was across from his home. There was a noise of vicious fighting in the partially darkened cottage, when then a woman had just run outside with her child in her arms, screaming for help. It was Fia, the shoemaker's wife, and her 2-year-old son Aiden. "Miss Flynn," Liam called out, "what is the matter?" "My husband is battling the devil himself. Please help him. May God have mercy." "Okay, please, Miss Flynn. Take refuge in my home and lock the door," Liam said, in which she did as she was told. No sooner he was met by his cousin Cullen, along with 4 more men with their shotguns. He then quickly explained what was happening as they rushed to the house of Mr. Brian Flynn. They could still hear the struggle and the thick voice of Brian cursing the attacker. They entered the home, following the noise coming from upstairs. They burst into the bedroom, only to find poor Brian overcome. The air was bursting in from the window that was broken. They figured the assailant had jumped out the window. The 4 men went back downstairs to see if they can give chase, while Liam and Colin stayed behind to assess Brian. He was laying on the ground with many gashes and stabs across his body, bleeding out. His body was trembling, clinging on to every bit of life he had left. "Liam, is that you?" he said weakly. "Yeah, it's me and the boys," he said, kneeling by his side. "Is my wife and boy safe?" "Yes, Brian, they are safe at my house. Who did this to you?" "Bless you. It was a Bodach," he said, before finally giving his last breath. At the moment, they could hear from out the window shotgun blasts and confused yells of horror. Liam and Colin went to go join the rest of the crew to kill whatever it was. They came out in the back to find another poor soul, hurt, but far from dying. Liam and the boys quickly gave chase of an elusive human-like shadow that kept running from them by climbing up the walls of cottages. It jumped from rooftop to rooftop, making its way toward the mud-soaked fields. They each took a shot of the hideous being that they caught glimpses in the flashing lightning. Poor, slow lads," they heard the thing mocking them, in a raspy voice of an old man. "Try to keep up if you want to catch me," which it then cackled. "Go back to the pits of hell from whence you came crawling out of, you vile creature. yelled Liam, in which the Bodach just laughed some more, replying, "If that be the case, I'll be sure to take some of you with me." Then the Bodach leapt down from the last roof, bounded over the stone fence, and began running his way into the field. Then Liam and Colin bounded over the fence and took aim. Bang! Bang! Both of their shots resounded. Then, in the flash of lightning, they saw the Bodach collapse into the ground. They then rushed after it, along with the other men. They found it floundering around in the cold mud, finding that one shot landed on the Bodach's right leg and the other on his left shoulder. It wasn't the end, though. It suddenly got up and attacked the nearest man with his dagger, resulting in the poor man's death. Recovering from the surprise attack, Liam shot the beast in the gut, sending it flying backward. Finally subdued, they beheld the hideous form of the creature, with skin as black as charcoal, his eyes, albeit a fading blood red. On his head his horns were like a stag, his hair long and white on his head, including his long beard that was now stained with blood that reached down to his waist. Then finally, long fangs as white as ivory protruded slightly from his mouth, while he wore a simple pair of slacks held by a belt. "Strike me down, boy," the Bodach cursed Liam, "or my kin will seek vengeance on yours until they are all wiped out. No matter how far you run or where you hide, your family, mine, will follow." "My family will not be so easily bested by your horrid line, you devil," Liam said as he then leveled his shotgun to the Bodach's head and pulled the trigger. It was over. It is told that they burned the body after that. Liam and Colin eventually sold their homes and left for America, hoping that the Bodachs would give up their chase if they hid long enough. I then paused for dramatic effect after finishing the tale. I then looked at their faces, which they showed interest and a bit of fear. "Never worry, my children. All it is just a story," I said. "In all my life I have never seen one." Then at the edge of the small clearing, did I see several pairs of red eyes glaring. This has been The Storyteller. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe.